Morning to all of you. I am Kara Wanagatimu. I work on Microsoft Teams Engineering, and I want to say hello to all the folks who are watching this. This is being streamed online, so I will watch my sense of humor because it's being recorded forever. I want to make sure that everybody feels focused on the fact that we're going to talk about end-user adoption from both an IT pro and an end-user perspective today for Microsoft Teams. Can I assume everyone in this room is using Microsoft Teams? Put your hand up if you are. All right, I love to see those hands go up. And how many of you are using the mobile application? Great, that is great. That means you're having a good day. You can stay connected. You know what's happening on the go. You don't always have to open up your laptop. This is a good thing. But in this room today, I want to take us back to what this is actually about. And it's the people we serve. It's the employees that we're trying to enable. You know, I know you heard Satya in his keynote, or Jeff, or Jared, and we talk about employing every company and organization and person in the world to achieve more. For us, that's not a marketing slogan, and especially for all of you in the adoption space, this should be really the center of your prioritization, that employee experience, right? And my job inside of Microsoft Teams and that of the customer advocacy group is to accelerate you, to help you, and give you the benefit of the research and the view that we have from all around the world of this workload. Now, what that also means, though, is that you're going to tailor what we have for you for a way that will work in your organization, right? The industry you're in, the type of organization you have, your size, all of these things affect the way that you're going to apply adoption best practices and principles. Now, we know about Teams as the hub for teamwork, and people ask me, well, what tool do I use when, and what about Yammer, and what about Outlook? Microsoft Teams as the hub for teamwork is about better together. And if you do follow me, you will find that I tweet that a lot. Hashtag better together, because it's Teams and Yammer, Teams and Power Platform, Teams and SharePoint. It's bringing the workloads together in a central location that actually helps our employees have a better experience because it can reduce context switching. That's the thing that happens in your brain that breaks your focus when you have to hop between applications. Right? How many of you have to have more than 10 browser windows open to do your job? Yep, exactly. Our goal is to reduce that, to bring those experiences and business processes inside of Microsoft Teams. You know, it's very powerful for chat and file collaboration and modern meetings, but it's those tabs and it's those application integrations that for your end user experience is going to be the most transformative thing. So we have all these great capabilities and features, but what we want to think about today is how do we approach it? Maybe you consider yourself to be IT pros, or maybe you're the admin, okay? Maybe about 60% of you. So if you're coming to this room from an IT pro perspective, as I came to this work, then you're also thinking about the technical deployment. You're thinking about the quality of the service, or you should be. You're thinking about what it's going to take to potentially migrate content from your existing SharePoint implementation into the sites that are created when you are provisioning Microsoft Teams. So you have a little bit of a different perspective, but now is the time as an IT professional where you can increase your influence in your organization by becoming more strategic, by thinking about that user experience and connecting to business process outcomes. You want to make sure that you are enabling use cases in your organization so that your business leaders see that you are not the Department of No. That's not what an IT pro is, even though they used to call me that when I worked in Microsoft IT. That's not what we are. We are the Department of Safe and Secure Business Enablement, because it's also up to us to ensure that we have secure and frictionless collaboration, and that's why we're in Office 365. If you come to this from the training and the communication side of the house, or you are a professional change manager, you are thinking about maybe something a little bit different. And you're really focused on that end user experience and what's happening for them. You're probably getting a lot of feedback from your end users. Because here's the thing that happens. When IT implements governance and security, sometimes if these two groups of people aren't well connected, you do it in a way that actually creates more friction for the end user. And end users today aren't super patient with that. They will simply find another way to get their job done. They will put your data on consumer applications, they will text it, they will use insecure internet connections, they will get carrier pigeons to send the document across town if they have to, right? They're not going to be stopped from accomplishing their goal. So what they're thinking about is often quite different. So they also need some guidance and support. I've been in many organizations and they'll say, oh, we're just gonna turn everything on. Let the users decide. Okay, how well does that go? Anybody ever done that? I've done that. It's not that great because people need guidance. They are not professionals like all of you. You are professionals in this space, right? You are here spending all this time and investing your money in this conference so that you can provide guidance to your organization. So please do, right? Let's have a perspective, have what we call a point of view on what people should be doing in your company for different types of business processes. So we're going to talk about more of that today. So these are the top 10 Microsoft Teams best practice for adoption from an IT pro perspective. Okay? Everybody take their phone out, take a picture. Do it. Go ahead. I know you want to. I know you want to. Take a picture. Everybody does that now. Nobody used to do that before. It's really interesting. So what I want to say about this is that also these slides will be available online. I have updated them. So if you're going to download the deck, wait until tomorrow. Also, this video will be available as all of the Ignite sessions. And that's what's really wonderful is you can share this information back with your teams when you go back because of the streaming and recording we're doing. So I want to talk about these best practices and go in a little bit deeper. Plan teams with teams. Get your hands on the product. Now, I know all of you in this room are using it, but how is my question. If you're just having one-on-one or group chats, then you're using it and that's great, but there's so much more, right? There's so much more to the product. And you won't get that sticky viral usage until you start to explore apps and teams and other ways. And the best way for you to do it is to plan your project with it. And we know this. And so consequently, we're also launching something I'd like to announce today that will be available in public preview. And it's called Advisor for Teams. And Advisor for Teams, I get my, there we go. Advisor for Teams is connecting and automating together the process of being an IT pro and the work that's done in the modern portal and the process of actually planning teams, which we like to have happen in Teams itself. When this releases, you'll be able to, whether you're a global admin or not, go to the modern portal and kick off a process that will actually deliver you a project plan inside of Teams. What this is doing right now is you're able to add people to this type of project plan. We're going to provision one for calling, meeting, and chat. And it gives you the benefit of all of our knowledge of how we'd like you to approach this project. Now, you can go through and you can delete items. We're adding the people to it right now. You can delete items, and you can also collaborate with people inside and outside of your company. Now, this tool is going to be free to you, right? So it gives you a starting point. You can see here that it's started to create the team, and these workload details, what we want you to do to enable chat, teams, channels, and apps, you can see here, and it's built in with all of the instructions, the links, a checklist of what you need to do that you can simply complete. It uses all of the tools of Office 365, Planner, Power BI, and Forms. And then what's really exciting about it is the way that it builds it out. I'm going to go ahead and stop this video and hop over to my demo right here. So this is what it's doing. It's basically creating a team inside of Microsoft Teams, and it's given me a channel here that is named by the workload, the capability that I want to deliver. And then take a look at my buckets, folks. I mean, you can go out and you can download my project file or my Excel template for this same project plan. Or you'll just be able to use this tool and have it in Planner. So it's broken it up by the phases that we have: getting ready, rolling out to early adopters, and broad scale. And if I just click on one of these items, you can see how I've mentioned here that you've got a checklist for the plan, and then all of the attachments, the links for the information that you need to get this work done, right? Do you like this? Is this useful? Okay, good. Thank you. Little energy. The reason that I'm excited about this There's a ton of people back in Redmond who worked on this. Brandon Bernier and the IT Pro team and everybody who's really leaned into accelerating your planning, because we all know that planning and implementing Microsoft software can be difficult, right? It can be difficult, and we sometimes make it more difficult because of the way we publish our information. It's everywhere. When I was a SharePoint administrator, I had a folder on my desktop with like 60 links in it. And they were not all the same website that I needed to manage SharePoint. So we're really excited about this. We are going to also launch this with some additional workloads as well. So public preview will have chat, calling, teams and channels. We'll have meetings and conferencing. We'll be adding our core adoption plan. SharePoint migrations, other services will be served by this advisor. And we'll also add plans that are specific to industries and different scenarios. So we're really excited about this as a platform to help our IT pros plan teams with teams. But those tools are only a part of it. You still need people. Champions are the secret sauce of driving adoption in your organization. How many of you already built a champions program? Coaches, something like that? Okay, for those of you who haven't, really want you to lean in here and think about this, because people learn more from other people that they know, right? So those folks are different from your early adopters. Early adopters are motivated by learning about technology. They're interested in the features and the tools. Champions are motivated by helping other people, right? And that recognition for them is very important. Now, I run the Worldwide Office 365 Champions program. You can take our tools to start your program. We have monthly calls. We're going to do a meetup of champions on the show floor at Community Central at between 1 and 2 p.m. on Wednesday. So you can come there to learn more about it. But it's very important to have champions to support people as they're making this transition. You also want to prioritize business engagement, and this may be something different for your IT department. So I had the privilege of working in what was then Microsoft IT, and it's now called Core Service Engineering. I ran SharePoint, I ran Skype at Microsoft, did the Power BI rollout, that sort of thing. And we were going through a transformation then when we were going from a traditional IT shop to agile service management. That means you deliver your projects more quickly, and you think about your minimum lovable product, your minimum releases, in a different way. It also meant that we had to have business engagement managers. These were what we called BPMs, business program managers, that were assigned to different sections of the business. So I would go and talk to the leaders in HR and understand their business deeply and the kinds of capabilities they needed. And then I would come back and talk to IT and tell us in a technical way what we needed to do. So you're a translator. And if you're in this adoption space today and you have a technical background, then you need to build that ability to translate these technical capabilities into what the business really needs, and that will help you. That's what we call an adoption service specialist. And that adoption specialist, we have a course for that now, which we've released. I'll be teaching at 2 o'clock today more information about that if you're interested in getting that certification and learning what that path looks like. But this is how you grow. And whether you're from a technical background or a business background, being able to talk to business is key in this process. These are some examples that I've included in the deck of the way to structure your adoption team. And this depends on your size. Like, I have been a department of one. So I was the admin, I was the trainer, I wrote the documentation, I dealt with people's problems. So I've been that person, right? But in mid or larger organizations, it's more complex than that. And Microsoft Teams also brings together people who have traditionally been managing the collaboration workloads, like SharePoint and Exchange, with the people who have been managing the voice workloads, like Skype for Business or Link. And sometimes those groups haven't worked together before. So you have to find a way to bring them together. And these different models for either an adoption team or specifically for an individual solution can help you do that. So these will be reference slides that are available in the deck that you can think about. Obviously, you need to deploy the client. We've simplified client deployment. People can still download it, obviously, directly. But now, as a part of Office Pro Plus, when you install Office Pro Plus or update it, our client is there as well. And what's really fantastic is our ability to have such a mirror experience, both on Windows devices and on the Mac. How many of you are supporting Macs in your organization right now? Yep, exactly. I remember the day my VP of IT walked into my office and threw his brand new iPad on my desk and said, make SharePoint work on this. Turned around and walked out. I was like, okay. 2003, and whenever that was, whatever year that was. So, today things are different. Whether you're on Android or iOS on your mobile devices, I know our boss uses the iPad experience a lot, and all of these different operating systems, you can support it. As you go through this process, I want to make sure you get one thing. Great governance precedes great adoption. And when I say great governance, I mean governed, frictionless provisioning of Microsoft Teams. That doesn't mean uncontrolled, and it doesn't mean you let everybody create an HR team at your company. We are teaching a teamwork governance course here, and if you don't come to it, I highly recommend you at least get the deck or watch the recording. Because if you're going to have Microsoft Teams, you're actually governing Office 365 groups, and there are some decisions like these you need to make. All these capabilities that we talk about are available in the product, and some of them do require Azure AAD P1 and additional license, but for the most part, you can do great governance and have auditing and reporting and all of these capabilities right out of the box. You just have to set it up, right? And I will tell you that most people don't have good governance today. There's either too much and it turns users off, or there's not enough. Right? So now we have an opportunity to reset this and create that frictionless collaboration, but it has IT management. When you think about this governance, again, I want you to think about this tiered model. Governance is not a paintbrush that you should just layer over everything. Okay? It needs to have gradation. Also, not all your content is of equal value. Right? The 5 or 6 different checklists I have to prepare for this conference are not at all the same as the next-gen product specification at Microsoft. Those assets are not governed the same way. The teams are not governed the same way. Right? Expiration policies, whether or not I can have external users or not. In that area where I have that product specification, I can't have external guests. But in most of my teamwork that I do, external guests are enabled. It's those kinds of decisions in a tiered fashion that are actually going to support the kinds of adoption that you want as you move to Teams. I know everybody's worried about sprawl, right? But you can control that, right? You can control that. And there's some amazing partners and MVPs who've also gone even further and created some provisioning forms to allow you to get a little bit of extra data as you go through the process. Just make sure, I've been building ECM systems, enterprise content management systems for like 20 years. Don't have more than 10 fields. They will ignore you and go back to that carrier pigeon, right? All your product specifications will be on some consumer competitive product that shall remain nameless at this moment, right? It's not really what you want. You want to keep your data in your tenant and manage it from there. And so exciting. Private channels. Yay, private channels. The team who created private channels are here. I just love them. They're fantastic. They've done a really deep and thoughtful job about enabling private channels. And for those of you who may not know, a private channel enables you to have a group of people that are a subset of the team have access to information. So in this example here, this is a cross-organizational team. I actually have a video online that's about how to set up your teams and channels, but I will tell you a couple things. More teams, more larger teams that are cross-organizational. Now, you want to avoid these tiny little teams with 5 people and then you end up in 300 teams. That's not so great for your users. So bigger teams with more people that will have a longer life cycle. Right? And so what you can do now, instead of having, whoops, let me go backwards. Instead of having these individual teams for the leadership or for budgeting or for recruiting, you can have these private channels in the larger team. Right? And there's a great session on that. Again, that's going to be recorded, but just know that that has hit general availability and we're really excited about it because now you can start designing some teams that make sense. And I know many of you have been waiting. And promoting the mobile app. So if you're not using device enrollment, 2-factor authentication, these sorts of things, first off, please do, right? You want to protect your data and access to your tenant. But enabling people's mobile devices, for me, it's not optional, right? As an IT professional and a change manager, I need people to have experiences that they can use on the go. It's very important. And so I want to do that in a safe and secure way, but the IT pro in me wants to be able to manage that. I want to be able to wipe my corporate data off that person's personal device if it gets lost or stolen, or if they're no longer with the company. So using those capabilities in Microsoft 365 will really help you feel good about this. And that may not be in your particular job description, but it's something you should be discussing with your IT pros if you're coming to this from the business side of the house. And that's an important thing to note. Technical acumen for those of us who come from a business or organizational change management perspective is what's going to get you respect with those IT professionals you need to work with, right? You can't be the change manager who comes in the room and doesn't understand how the technology works. That won't be successful. I have seen that many times, and it's not useful. So you don't have to go to a 500 level depth in Teams or SharePoint administration, but you do need to understand the basic functionality of some of these key capabilities so that you can have a meaningful conversation about how you're going to deliver an employee experience with moving Giphies, because that's so important. Enabling apps for your users. I have seen folks who have simply turned them all off. The apps that you can access inside the product. At the very least, I feel pretty strongly that you should have the Microsoft apps available, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, SharePoint. We've got an Adobe PDF app, being able to pin in a secure website. These are fundamental capabilities that if you don't do that will really impact the usability of the product. So you have more controls now. These are pictures from the modern portal. So if you're not the global administrator or the Teams workload administrator in your organization, you can discuss this with the people who are. Because some people, some IT pros still think that we're kind of new, right? And that you can't do things with our service, and that's not the case. I've never been involved in a product that has grown and matured as quickly as Microsoft Teams. And so you don't have to worry about features like records management or compliance or things of this nature. We have a few exceptions still, and you'll find those on our known issues list. But for the most part, we are at equal level with the other workloads in Office 365. So let's make sure that your IT pros know that everybody's aware that it's time to embrace it. And make sure that you're getting feedback, right? Make sure that you're having a way to get feedback. And let's be clear, not all feedback is equal or comes from the same way. When we launched Microsoft Teams at Microsoft, we did so with a Yammer community. That was our public community for the 150,000 employees to ask questions before they got to actually creating a help desk ticket. We still have that today. It's one of the most active communities in our Yammer instance. And whether you're using Yammer or some other broad-scale communication tool like that, we highly suggest it. But then there are the meetings that we've had with business leaders, that business engagement that happens. Our internal teams go and meet with those groups, our sales group, our field enablement group. There's a lot of groups at Microsoft, as you can imagine. And we get their feedback directly, right? Because that executive feedback is also important. And I want to make a plug here for all the executive assistants in the world, all the people who provide support. Go talk to those folks. They are gold. Right? If the executive assistants don't like your software, how successful do you think your implementation is going to be? They will tank you, right? And the reason that they do that is because they are so busy. They're trying to support people. They too are motivated by helping others. You can't be an executive assistant or in one of those roles without really wanting to be helpful. And so when IT rolls things out and doesn't even talk to them, right? That's very demeaning, actually. So engage with those special groups in your organization to get feedback that will help you. And of course, use our resources. Success with Teams is our main documentation site, written by an amazing group of people. I got an opportunity to work on this some, and now there's a whole group of people that do. And it's our deployment and adoption guidance, technical information, our IT Pro training on Teams Academy, and we'll talk about Microsoft adoption in a moment. And of course, you can always give us feedback online, both for our product on the top there and our adoption tools. So there's a method to this. There is a way, a path that is successful. And you may deviate from it in one way or another. Maybe you wait to enable the mobile app, or maybe you, just take things in stages. That's okay. But there are certain parts of this product that are best if everyone's all in. Right? Imagine your organization if only 10% of the people could send an email. Right? Why do people make it so only 10% can send a chat? Right? And you have to think about serving the end users in your organization as well. And we certainly have, and so we put together this book. It's available here at the show. It's available online. Getting Started with Microsoft Teams, these conversational geek books. They're small little books, easy to read, and they're very, very helpful for helping your users understand how to use the software. But you probably have 3, 4, 5 generations of people in your organization today. And they all have different expectations about how their technology is supposed to work. But their first expectation is easily. It just should. I can't tell you how many times you hear that, right, when you're talking to folks. So, helping them understand that and moving from an email-based experience to include, not replace, but include a chat-based experience is an important part of that transition. So you can get this book at the Ignite bookstore, although I hear they're going quickly, at the Conversational Geek booth, at any of our team's booths on the show floor, and again at that Champions Connection in the Community Hub. My co-author, Heather, stand up for a second. Let's give her, she's an amazing human. She's a Microsoft certified trainer. Heather Savino. Just great, and working with these folks is fantastic. If you're not familiar with this series, they do a lot of little free books on different topics, so check them out. All right, let's talk about your end users. So we talked about chat, one-on-one, and with groups, but here's the thing you need to be aware of. Part of healthy teamwork is not me just talking to you, or me just talking to you and Lucas and Heather. It's about me talking with and around the broader team. Because sometimes people will say, well, why do I need to do this? I don't want to do this. Email's just fine. Well, it might be just fine for them, especially if they're higher up in the organization, because people bring them information. But for the rest of us mere mortals, we have to find stuff ourselves, right? And if you're new in an organization, think about employee onboarding and how long it takes to get effective in any given project. This is why you want to encourage chat inside of channels. Chat inside of channels is an important transition. Many people onboard to Teams, and especially if they're coming from Skype for Business, they're familiar with chat, so they start chatting. We love that. But to get real transparency and effectiveness, you need to have those conversations in the channels, in the teams, so that people, when they come and go, have that context. Right? People want to understand why things are happening as much as what they're supposed to do. And that's why we want to have more transparency in conversations. So having chat in the right places, joining these key teams, and having meetings with video really improves the communication amongst us humans. Teamwork is about humans, not about technology. Somebody tweet that, right? Keep it in your mind, because that's the truth. And so you want to make sure that's what you're enabling. All right, I know you all took a picture of this, so I'm going to move on and deep dive into these and get you some of the information, right? So making sure that you have this chat is fantastic. And I'm actually going to hop over here for a moment, and I want to talk about those teams. So think about the different types of projects and services and capabilities you do in your company. So I always think about customer service and product delivery and field sales. Obviously, that's kind of the industries I've been in. I think about enabling people, first-line workers, right? So I used to have a job as a consultant. I was always in the field. I never was in the office. So my life was very different. The internet connectivity I had was very different. My experience of finding information was different. And I needed it fast because I was usually trying to look for it in front of a customer. Right? I've done other work. My husband is in construction, and at one point we had a construction company, and trying to make sure they get the right product at the right time at the right job site is really challenging. These are the kinds of teams and processes that you can transform when you think about enabling it and building that team structure. One of the things I find quite often is that people build a team structure that is not necessarily based on the folks who are using the team. Don't think you know how other people want to work. Go ask them. Go talk with them. Who are the experts in your product support department? Who are the experts in your product delivery department? Go talk with them and find out how they'd like to work. Build a team as a proof of concept and get going. Our productivity library items are there to give you some effective, some inspiration also. Most communication is visual. So I'm that person in the meeting that leaves my video camera on, right? I turn my video camera on. And I am going to acknowledge that I think that for myself, and I see this quite often, for women in this business, it's even a little more stressful to turn that camera on. There's some kind of expectation that I need to look fabulous to turn the video on. I might look okay here, but I have, ponytail and jeans days when I'm building stuff. But that's not why the video's on. It's not about how I look. It's about my presence. It's about your ability to look in my eyes and see my facial expression. It's the ability for your brain to actually understand what I'm saying better. So be that person. Turn on your video in the meeting, because once one is on, other people will turn theirs on, right? And even when they don't, I leave mine on. There's another nice little piece of etiquette. Turn your video camera on when you're talking, and then you can turn it back off if you're not, especially in a large meeting. Right? Microsoft Teams is smart about how it handles that. So think about how you want to do that. We talked about the mobile app as well, but there's so much happening in our first-line worker space. The kinds of applications that we're creating, the ability to have shifts there. You saw in the keynote, Jared and Marissa talking about tasks in Teams, bringing all of the task management capabilities of Planner and To-Do and flagged emails together in one experience. These things are very important for first-line workers. So that mobile experience will really drive usage when you help them understand what it is. But you have to be clear with people about where they're going to work. One of the big challenges that people do with their users is they only put one half of themselves in the new reality. So half of the project's happening in email, and half of the project's happening in Teams, and how frustrating is that fragmented experience? Be clear. I have the luxury of saying, if you're going to work with my team, you will find me in Microsoft Teams. Here are the places. I have a large group that I allow lots of folks in. So that my work is centered in Teams. Now that's the benefit of having been there since before preview and being able to say, hey, my body of work is happening here. Not everybody has that luxury, but when you do, be clear about it, right? It's one of the first things you do when you spin up a team. Hey, where are we going to collaborate and work on this project? Right, where's the meeting schedule? Who's doing what? It's basic PM skills, but you need to include this information. And make sure that you have multiple team owners. You can have up to 10 in Microsoft Teams. Don't be a bottleneck, right? Don't be a bottleneck. Let people in. Open the doors in an appropriate fashion. And be flexible, right? Not everybody gets it right away. I still have people who send me emails. When I don't answer them, they stop. I am famous for not reading my email, but I have to say that I've made a new effort at that just recently over the last, I'll call it quarter, a few months, and my email is a better experience. This idea that we somehow want to replace it with Microsoft Teams is not the intention of our group. We want your email experience to be better, and I've found that mine is, because with the focused inbox, I get to see the email that's really relevant to me first. I have less volume, because all those short emails are you coming to the meeting? Did you update the deck? All that's happening in Teams. So my email experience is much better, and it is still an incredibly important and valid communication tool for your project. But also moving common tools. Now this is what I was talking about in terms of having a reason for people to go to Teams, right? At Microsoft, we have an approvals app. So all of the approval work that I have to do as a manager, purchase orders, expense reports, all of that shows up in Teams, right? And that's one less browser window I have to have open. That's one less place I have to force my mind to context switch. But I want to show you a couple other things as well. We also launched and announced general availability for Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways. How many of you have heard of Learning Pathways? A couple people. Okay, Learning Pathways is awesome. I'm so excited about this. So Learning Pathways is a free training template that you can install in your Office 365 tenant, and it streams our training content for Office 365 apps to you. And so you don't have to spend your time constantly updating those training decks. And this is an example of the beta application, building that SharePoint Online site inside of Microsoft Teams. So what we've done here is I've pinned this app using app policies. I can give this app to certain folks, and I've configured it to show different tabs from that SharePoint site that I have provisioned. And we have updated a good deal of our training content. I want to hop over here also and show you the administration experience. So this is the list of all the different types of content that I have inside of Learning Pathways. And you see these little eyes here. I can turn these services on and off. So maybe I'm not using, let's see, what may I not be using? I don't know, Sway maybe? Maybe I'm not using Sway, and so I want to turn that content off in my training experience. I can do that. I can do that now. But most of the time, I want to have a good deal of the information up. And so this is just a standard SharePoint communication site. I'm going to pop over here to the main home page and have this load up. And it comes out of the box with all of the services obviously turned on. As I mentioned, we've done an update. So we now have accessibility training included. We've included some of the training for Outlook Mobile. And as I mentioned, we've updated the training that is available for Microsoft Teams. So this training comes from support.office.com. It streams directly to this site. When I make an update, it updates it for you. But what's more important about this site is you can add your own playlists. So think about adding a playlist for employee onboarding, or how to do an expense report, or how to order a new computer, how to file a customer ticket. You can build this in with any content, in SharePoint, online, doesn't matter where the content is. And this whole thing is free for you. So I encourage you to go to our drive. I'll give you the link for where you can find this. But being able to now empower your end users in place. I'm a real fan of embedding this inside of the experience, but I can also do things like in this app, I can embed other SharePoint sites. So maybe I want it to be easier for people to find their benefits information. This is an example of a SharePoint site inside of Microsoft Teams that also comes from the SharePoint provisioning service. You may have seen in Jared and Jeff's keynotes that we're talking about the lookbook. So these are templates that are available to show you how SharePoint can be used. So again, Teams isn't trying to kill SharePoint, it's better together. You know, SharePoint is fantastic for content management and creating these rich experiences, for discoverability of this information through search, right? Both inside and outside of Microsoft Teams. We want to bring those things together. Right? You, as an adoption specialist, design the experience and deliver it from inside of Microsoft Teams, while still, keeping that ability to have it pop out and go directly to that web browser experience if you want. So we love that these things are available now because they allow us to have people use Teams and personal apps. This is the app the app area that I was talking about here. And so obviously on the far right-hand side there, you can see, talking about this right here, all the different types of apps that are available, right? So at the very least, this top 2 rows is what you should have enabled. And then you can go through the other apps, there's hundreds of them now, and figure out the ones that you need in your environment. Not everybody's going to need all of them, but you have those options. Right? And you can control that from the Modern Portal. Right? You can also publish your own applications, your own line of business applications, just like the Getting Started app I just showed you. You can publish that yourself, so you'll have your own catalog of apps that you can create. Right? Using Teams as a platform for business process implementation can also be as simple as doing a couple lines of code in your SPFX solution so that it will light up inside of Teams. Now, I don't always recommend that because oftentimes you want to refactor it, right? You want to include some different features in there. But folks can certainly do that. And yes, we've talked about this channels with tabs. The apps are important for setting up the right tabs in your experience. right? Making sure that you have the right contacts and the right integrations live for folks. And you want your users to know how to do that, right? Some people try to restrict, some team owners try to restrict what your end users can do in the team. I'm not really a fan of that. I want to enable people. And if I don't trust the people I'm working with, I have a different problem. That's not a technology problem, right? I feel the same way about doing things like locking down YouTube or, whatever, unless you're in a government facility. Like, if somebody wants to watch the football game on their cell phone, they're going to, right? You can't stop that. What you can do is monitor it, because I am an IT pro and I'm a fan of monitoring. But nonetheless, the important thing is trust the people that you work with at the very least inside the team. As a team owner, you do have the ability to make changes to the policies in that team itself, but you're going to want to know what's happening. You're going to want to know what's happening. And part of that is talking to people, but I also encourage you to go to the other session on our new productivity score. So for those of you who don't know, we do have a Power BI pack that gives you usage information, and we have a new role in the modern portal, so a report reader role, and that will enable you as an adoption professional to see data about who's using what inside of the tenant without being able to get to any of the other features or functions that an administrator usually does. So if you don't have that role or that Power BI content pack installed, please do it, or please go talk to your IT professionals about that. But also we've announced the productivity score, and my colleague AJ is giving another course on that in the next day or so. Actually, I believe it's today, to talk about the productivity score. And that's tying usage inside of your tenant to business goals. And they've done a great job of pulling all that together. So I won't have time to deep dive into that today, but I want you to know that that ability to understand who's doing what, both at an organizational level, at a departmental level, and inside the team itself, we know you want that information, and we're working on empowering you with that. So they're going to do an update to the Power BI pack for Office 365 usage. You can expect that in January, and more public preview about the productivity score is coming as well. So that will help you also. There's many C-suites and organizations where they want to see some data to see if their investment in these tools and in the work that we're all doing is meaningful. And so this data will now enable you to do that. Sometimes what you need to do, though, is you need to communicate these things, and you want to be using live events. So of course you can have meetings in Microsoft Teams, and we like to enable people to do that. Please make sure people have a decent headset. That would be really great. Don't yell into your computer. That's not going to create great quality audio. But if you get beyond 250 people in that meeting, you need something else. And included with Microsoft Teams is live events. This is how I deliver my worldwide champion calls every month. You can have up to 10,000 people in one of these meetings. It is perfect for training and webcasts. And you can configure it to allow you to either do it to just folks in your organization, or like I do, I can broadcast publicly. And so you're in control by basically who has that link. So think about how the communication of your executives or your training initiatives or even your change program might change if you hosted virtual town halls like this. Also, you record it, right? And you have the data of the Q&A questions, so you can create a knowledge base, and you can share this recording on stream. This is all out of the box. I'm not talking about anything custom, right? This is you using the tools of Office 365 to drive Teams adoption and be the example of the kind of change you want to see across your company. Right? And this is an important thing. My last name in Swahili means the tip of the spear. That is what you all are, right? I know I'm in the right place, but so are you, right? Because you are leading this change for us, right? You are leading this change for your users. And so it's really important that you model that behavior. As a collaboration expert and as an adoption change management person, it's really important that you be collaborative, right? And that you share your information in modern ways, and that you be open to feedback. Not everybody's going to like the change. They are going to naturally resist what they're trying to do. But that's why you encourage them to give feedback. right? You encourage them to give feedback, and we want to encourage you to go through these 4 steps. Learn from others. These are some of the sessions that we have today. You can look my name up in the tool. But come and join the community. Join the Champions program. Take those materials that we create for you every month. And if you don't know how to build a Champions program, then join our call on November 20th. And we'll be talking about how to build that Champions program. We're also going to do a deep dive into that productivity score. Use our resources. AK.MS Microsoft Adoption is the hub where we're bringing together all of these tools for you in one place. And then, of course, empower your employees with that Microsoft 365 training portal. There's one last thing I want to show you. I get to my correct browser here. We have created these flip books that are available there at the Microsoft Adoption Hub to help you tell the story of Microsoft Teams and Teams adoption. And this kind of represents a new way of how we're doing this work at Microsoft, right? This is easy to update. It works on any mobile device or tablet. And at the end, it brings together many of the resources that you need and links to Success with Teams for IT professionals and for adoption planning. And at the end, you can take a look and see the bookshelf of the others that we have. We have one for security and compliance. There's one for Teams and Teamwork and Gov. So we encourage you to use these things. Tell the story. Get excited about what it is that we're doing here because this is the time. Right? This is the time that you can change that employee experience and that you can supercharge your own career. How influential do you want to be? Right? How influential in your organization do you want to be? Because as you master this work of service adoption, especially around Microsoft services, it can be a fantastic time for you. I hope I'll see you in my course later on the Adoption Specialist Certification. If I don't see you there, I hope I see you online in our community. And I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for coming to my session. Thank you very much.